Now, the Ring of Fire, the major area in the basin of the Pacific Ocean where many earthquakes and volcanic eruptions occur, has been rocked by a cluster of seismic activity in recent weeks. The 40,000-kilometer horseshoe-shaped area is associated with at least 90% of the world's quakes. Indonesia in Southeast Asia, one of those countries that was recently hit by a 7.5 magnitude earthquake and then a tsunami that left more than 2,000 people dead and 5,000 others missing. Our special correspondent Njanji Chauke has returned from the epicenter of the earthquake in Indonesia, and he joins us in studio now. Thank you for being with us, Njanji. How can you describe this? I remember the day you left, they were saying there's 24 hours, then we won't find anybody alive. It's just a mass of rubble. Maybe take us sort of as you flew into Indonesia and tell us some of the experiences what you experienced, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, our first port of call was arriving in Jakarta. As you know, that there's a lot of paperwork that we had to do on our arrival. Then 2 days later, then we went to the ground zero of Indonesia. It was quite shocking arriving there. It was surreal to see, you know, huge buildings that have been reduced to dust, to rubble, to see mosques lying there. There's one huge bridge in Talis Beach that was torn into pieces of metal. I was quite shocked to see what Mother Nature can do, yeah. You know.
Had you seen anything like this before?
I've covered other natural disasters before. I was previously in the Philippines, in Tacloban City, following Typhoon Haiyan in 2013. In 2015, I covered the aftermath of the Nepal earthquake, where also thousands of people were killed. But you never get used to it, obviously. Every time you see the destruction, it shocks you as a person as well.
And the tragedy here, well, I mean, part of the tragedy is that there was a tsunami warning, and then they said, no, there will be no tsunami, and people were completely unprepared. I mean, there's a whole lot of issues about warning systems, about what went wrong.
Yeah, early warning systems is a major issue all around the world whenever there's a disaster. Hundreds of people had gathered there to attend a music festival in Talis Beach, so most of them were really caught off guard when those gigantic 5-meter waves came crashing in. You know, people were forced to run in all directions. Most of the people ran towards the bridge, thinking that they were going to be safe. But unfortunately, the tsunami was so powerful that it also destroyed that bridge.
And then you started interacting with people. I mean, just homes are lost. Were people just wandering around? How quickly does the coordination effort, the aid effort kind of kick in? What did you see?
You know, there's too much government red tape. At first, the government of Indonesia did make that call, an international call for assistance. And then, as you know, Gift of the Givers is one of those international organizations that did respond. But to get the aid to the people, there's a lot of red tape involved. As you know, cargo planes have to be hired. We're talking about tons and tons of food aid, water, and all that had to be distributed. Let's take a listen at one of the clips from two survivors. I spoke to an 8-year-old child and the mother. His name is Gaza Palestine. They were just explaining to us how they managed to survive the disaster.
The ground when I was 10 raised up at the same level with my neighbor's roof, and then there was, and then like the shake was stopped for about 15 seconds.
Tell me, how do you feel about what happened here?
Yes, though what happens, I just only play with my game and my mother is still working. I still just only hear earthquake is very so high, and this house is broken and fire are behind us. People come.
And your school, is your school still there?
Broken too, and make this gotta be not good. My school is broken and broken attempts to get away. My school with my friends is safe. My school is broken, but my friends too is saved.
Everything broken.
Yeah, everything broken there. You can see the level of the destruction. Another problem that caused so many houses to be devoured, there's a process called liquefaction. When the soil is saturated already and there's more pressure applied on it, then it causes the buildings to cave in. I think it also raises the questions of disaster risk reduction and also the question of building resilient communities. I think it's one of the questions that is going to come up at the COP24 meeting in Poland that is taking place in December. As you know, issues of climate change as well. We are releasing a lot of heat into the atmosphere, and these lead to the rise in sea level. Hence, when we have a tsunami, the waves are so huge and powerful.
And often poorer communities land up living on those structurally unsafe sort of areas.
Yes, a question of human settlement as well, where people are located. I think it's an issue that governments around the world have to look at. The issue of is this place conducive for people to build homes? Because most of the people that they build their homes just right next to the mountain, and when an earthquake happens, the first places to suffer major devastation are those communities that are right on the foot of the mountain. Maybe if we can just remind our viewers, in 2004, there was also another earthquake in Indonesia. So Indonesia is quite prone to earthquakes because it's located in what we call the Ring of Fire. We have countries like Japan, we have countries like Philippines. We saw in 2013 what happened there. And a tsunami, an average tsunami, when it travels on the sea, it travels at the speed of a jet airliner. That's about 950 kilometers. So you can imagine, as humanity,
if you're standing on the beach,
we don't have a chance. We don't have a chance. It's quite powerful.
Explain how the South Africans were involved in the aid efforts that you saw.
Yeah, they had deployed a team of search and rescue officers, doctors, as well as other experts that were there on the ground. They wanted to go and try and see if they could save more lives, retrieve bodies. But as you know, because of the government red tape, on the first few days, they were not even allowed to get to the epicenter, because Indonesia is also a major tourist destination. There was the IMF coming up in about a week after
so they actually let that hamper the operations.
Yes. And they were also saying that it's not safe because because of the saturation of the soil. You know, they wanted to prevent more disasters from happening. As you know, that there were also aftershocks that were still happening when we were there. So they didn't want to take responsibility of any more lives being lost.
Sure. Well, thank you for sharing some of those experiences. That was the SABC's own Njanji Chauke. We'll take a short break. We'll look at sports action next.